Hey guys, and welcome to episode 4 of Growing Up Desi. I am here and joined tonight by the recording music artist Rajan. And firstly, welcome Rajan, and thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Actually, it's definitely an honor, and it's a breath of fresh air. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you very much. No, this is awesome. So Rajan joins us from over in the States, in case you couldn't tell from his accent, and is going to talk us through what life is like for him over the other side of the world, and especially how that mingles with his career. So if we just start, so Rajan, you're a music artist, so you, again, have not gone down what we call the conventional Indian path of careers. So I guess,
Not.
right, I think the best place to start is, how do your family kind of feel about that? What are they like? Are they a bit old school? Are they a bit more modern in thought? How did that whole thing go down?
Sure, sure. So just to start off with, I just want to say from the get-go, a huge family, right? My father is the youngest. I have six uncles and then one pua at who's the
Yeah.
oldest. So just to let you know, I have a lot of people that I have to impress and all that stuff, right? That's just how it goes. And
Yeah.
from an early age, I took school very seriously. I was always the kid who just somehow got good grades, got A's, even if I wasn't always there. But I was academically blessed, so that was cool. And I did show some interest in the traditional, fields like medicine. I thought I was gonna become a doctor for a long time of my life. And my parents, my mom's dream was for me to go become a doctor, even if I never work, just go become a doctor.
Yes.
I'm
I'm
sure
just
we've
going to
all heard
say
that.
it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure we all heard that because they want to feel proud of, telling other people, "Sada munda doctor baniya," whatever it is. It's always about telling someone something impressive. And at first, don't get me wrong, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And over time, after I started going to college for the first time, I began to just meet different people, a different group of people, and they introduced me to a different way of thinking. They really opened my eyes, and I started learning that, hey, you don't have to go to college or go get a degree or do anything like that to become successful. If you have a desire for something in particular, go for it by all means. I don't want a doctor. I don't want to go see a doctor if he didn't get formal education. But the point being is, a lot of my friends say they want to start a business, but getting a degree in business doesn't mean you have the experience to open a business. So I started to understand that a lot. And the first thing I realized is I do want to go towards being my own boss. I don't want to have my life dictated by someone else. So that's the first thing that I got into my head.
Yeah.
Around that time, I was doing music. I wasn't taking it quite as seriously. And I was really just always fighting a battle at home with my parents and myself between taking time off from college to really figure out what I want to do. Whether that was trying out different businesses or just trying to figure it out. They were always looking at the clock and seeing, hey, you're this old, like when are you gonna get a degree? When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get the ball rolling?
Yeah.
And I
We
was
want grandkids, God damn it.
yeah, we want grandkids, and knock
Yeah.
on wood, I don't have any yet, but it's just interesting to me how there was always that pressure of getting things done by a certain time. And right now I'm 24, and around this time, typically in the States, is when most of your friends already have a degree. Maybe they're getting their first job, second job, and then after that, they're supposed to go get married, right? But I didn't follow that traditional route, so I didn't go get a 4-year degree, and I didn't go get a traditional job, any of that stuff. When I started taking music seriously, I was able to use my lifestyle, which was I actually work at a technology company. So
Cool.
so I am actually part owner in that company. It gives me a little bit more freedom, more flexibility, and I'm able to take any extra time I have and put it towards music. And obviously that's not something that they support right off the bat. They see, as an independent artist, you have to invest a lot of money into your own craft, whether music videos, recording, photo shoots, outfits, all of that stuff, you're doing that out of your own pocket. So I don't have a label, writing me checks to go get things done. And sometimes when people who don't understand that, aka mom and dad, if they find out that you just spent $10,000 on a project, they're like, oh my God, you could have put that towards a course or something and
Or a
gotten that.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then my thing is, money is not everything. Money is not what's going to make you happy. I've been at the bottom, I've been in the middle, I've been at times where I feel like I'm at the top of the world, and none of those amounts of money are going to change the real problems you have in your life, or it's not going to automatically give you permanent happiness. So, you know, I have no problem into investing into something if I don't see right away a monetary result. And for a lot of people, they're afraid to try things or invest in themselves if they're not going to get a return right away. And my advice is that in life, things are not always going to pan out how you expect them to. You're not always going to do things and right away get something from it. So be okay with understanding that there's a big picture, and just get comfortable knowing that it's a process and you have to keep going. And number one thing is having patience. But patience doesn't mean waiting and being mad. It doesn't mean you're like pissed off, like that's not patience. Patience is waiting and enjoying yourself in the process, and then anything you want, that'll come. So I think going back to the music and growing up in this type of household, I think for a while my parents, they lacked that patience and they lacked understanding, so it caused a lot of, I lost count of how many times I've gotten into it. But over time, once they see that, once your dedication equals consistency and persistency, and they see their child or anyone, for example, you see them continuing with the same amount of energy, they're not being discouraged, you got to give props to that person, and at that point you can understand, all right, they're on a good path. um, in our community, we have so much like mental, just like so many mental problems, right? And we don't talk about it. We never talk about it. But I think if a lot of the younger generation can understand and communicate with their parents that, hey, I understand you want the best for me, and I know everything you're doing is to help me, but you got to relax because you're having the opposite effect on my mental, and the problem is, like, we don't, a lot of things we want to talk about, we've never, there's a few people out there who are good friends with their mom and dad, and they can talk about the craziest stuff. They talk about drinking together, they talk about partying together, all that. I don't talk about that with my mom.
Nope.
Like she knows about it, but I'm not gonna come home and be like, hey mom, guess what, like, guess what girl I just talked to, nothing like that. It just doesn't make sense. But I know there are parents out there who have that relationship with their child, and I think that's healthy. But we need to just understand that it's okay to communicate. The worst thing your parents can do is maybe not agree or get mad, but that's temporary. So if you can get over that temporary fear of, I'm going to upset someone, then long term you're going to end up building a more effective relationship with more open communication, and that's going to help with everything.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, I guess the resentment just builds. It's like, oh, why won't you let me do this? Or why are you just stopping me doing what I want to do?
Yeah. And it's unfortunately for me, a lot of times I have to have those conversations, like when I was forced to. It's like when I was sat down and given ultimatums, like banda barna ke nahi, or
Yeah.
like, or it was like stuff like that. And then over time you realize you can only beat yourself up for so long, and you really get to the bottom of what it is. And it's usually a lack of communication. That's it. Our parents usually don't know what we're doing, so they think crazy stuff like you're selling drugs, or you're gonna get shot somewhere, or you're gonna get abducted, probably stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you just communicate to them, hey, this is what I'm doing. You have to trust me. Understand I'm growing up, going through phases, and I want to be more of a friend with you. Then hey, they can respect that. They can respect that.
Yeah, and I guess it's almost saying to them, hang on, it's not something, I'm not just messing around. This is something I actually really enjoy and want to take seriously.
Yeah,
And I'm still finding myself and finding my feet. But what I do know is actually this path isn't for me right now. So I want to go and explore this one.
yeah,
And hey, I'm 20 odd or whatever. It's not the end of the world if I don't become a doctor right now. There
yeah.
are other paths in
Like,
life.
think about how many, little kids you hear about who say, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a doctor or a policeman. Now, what if it was, wouldn't that be crazy of you and a little bit outrageous to think that what they said at 5 years old, they're going to say the same thing at 25? No way. And I'm not sure if you're if a big fan of math or anything like that, but
Depends how technical you're going to get.
I'm a visual person. I'm a visual
Yes.
person, right? So it's just like a graph. I literally showed this to my parents last week, and you have to look at when you're at a certain age. Like when you're at a certain
Exactly.
age,
Yeah.
you're the way when you grow up, everything changes a lot. It like is dramatically. This is the circle of life. I can't even do it, but
It's
you guys know what I'm
backwards.
trying to
I'm
say.
sorry. Yeah.
Everything, no, you're fine. But look at a graph and look at where you are and just look at the difference you're going to have later on, right? So if you just look at life, it's like this. It's like a U, right? It starts out at the bottom, you grow, and then you have some changes, but those changes are really dramatic at first. Then you kind of plateau at the top where yeah, you might be 30, 40, but your life is relatively the same. Not a lot is changing. So your mindset isn't really changing. The circumstances aren't changing. Then you get so old, then you eventually start to come down. So the problem is our parents, they're like up here. They're at that plateau where not a lot is changing, but we're all the way down here, right? And so they're not understanding that even in these 5, 6 years where maybe they think like, oh, you did this so long ago, they have that same image of you, even though you've changed so much since then, right? So I really think it just comes down to like a lack of communication, and parents don't understand that. They forget, oh my God, my kid is growing. They're going through different stages in their life. So in our community, for sure, like the Desi community, we just need to make our parents a little bit more aware of that. And hey, I don't know how many other siblings other people have had before them, but I'm the oldest child, so I can't blame my parents too much if they don't do things the right way. Like if they mess shit up and I'm like, that was the worst parenting move I've ever seen. I can't blame them. They didn't have an instruction manual at the beginning to help them out, right? So,
Yeah.
but
I guess
yeah,
ultimately they want to do what's right for you, and that's their
they
worry,
do.
whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, and the problem is sometimes that worry just comes across in the wrong way. It just
Yeah.
comes across the wrong way, either because they're so scared they just like abruptly said that, or sometimes parents aren't considerate about how the other person's gonna feel. I'm sure a lot of, people have gotten just a random call from their mom or parent, and they just like give you unnecessary stress out of nowhere, right? Out of nowhere. But it's like, hey, did you even think about maybe what I was doing when you called me? I could have already been dealing with so much stuff. And that happens to me all the time. Like I'll get business calls, this, that, and I'm having a rough day. And then my mom will call and she's upset about like you left the patilla on the, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm just joking about that example, but
Yeah, but
it,
yeah.
it it's about being more considerate and just I think the whole world could use that right now, honestly, being more considerate. We're
Agreed.
just, if you can lend a helping hand or if you can help out in some way, why not? That's
Yeah.
that's our job.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's definitely not just Essie's. that's
Oh
that's a
yeah.
worldwide thing.
But Dissies do show it a lot more. They show it like it's their number one power.
Well, yes, because they need to show it.
Yeah, man. I see the funniest stuff about Dissies. There was a meme I saw. It said, I would rather have more people at my wedding praying for me than having more people at the reception and they're all just gonna judge everyone's suit and the food and talk about, like, hey, it makes sense. It makes
Hmm.
sense. It's definitely prominent for sure in our community.
Yes, they love the showy and they love to think about what other people will say. I think that is the root cause of everything, though. No matter what I come to, they're
Yeah,
always so concerned with what somebody else will say. So,
yeah,
and like we were saying earlier, when you're like, I've done this, this, and this, it's like, okay, but that person did this as well. So you're almost
right.
never gonna win.
Never. You're never gonna win. And here's what I really hate about that argument, because people only see the good from the outside, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of times we'll hear about our cousins or friends doing whatever, and for a fact that their mom doesn't know all the bullshit they were doing last week, right? But if they did know, then all of the parents would feel a little bit more at ease knowing it's not just our kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they
You
think
know,
it is.
yeah,
They're like,
it's.
oh, they're so good, unlike you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you live with them? Do you know
I
what is
mean,
happening in that
I'm like,
house?
yeah, gladly sign the papers, adopt them, take them.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
it always comes from a place of love. It's just our, and I think what it is really, it's the fact that our parents, or most of them, are not first, they're not immigrants here for the first time. It's first generation. And they've never had their parents or grandparents grow up here. And I think what it is a lot of those traditions and household norms that happen in other parts of the world, they get passed down generation to generation to generation until it gets to an environment where it doesn't work. Like in India, you can have generation doing the same thing because you're still in the same place. But if you try to do those old norms here in America, or the UK, just any new world, a westernized world, it's much more difficult to do that because you're gonna get resilience from the next generation. Because they're meeting friends and other people at school, at work, and they're understanding, like, oh, other people actually get to have a life.
this is new.
This is new.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is crazy. You
uh-huh.
you guys get to breathe over there? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Oh my god. Yeah, but
Yeah,
no,
it's crazy.
it's true. It is a whole new world. And I guess one of the things I was talking to someone about the other day, I don't know if part of it's like, and again, it comes back to what will people think, but they're trying to, exactly what you say, they're trying to hold on to these old traditions that
Right.
worked when they were back in India or wherever they're from, right? And they brought them over. And I think they're so worried about what people might think if they saw them having moved on and being, westernized, that they're like, no, we have to do this. But what they don't
Right.
realize is India has moved on, right? Like, look at
Everyone.
people over there. The
Yeah.
world has moved on. It's not the same, but they're holding on to these kind of old school thoughts and traditional way of thinking
Hmm.
because again, they're worried about what others will
Yeah.
think about them.
They're worried about what other people are going to think. And then also, people are afraid of the unknown, and people don't like change. People like comfortable. So, when their household has certain rules or whatever, they want to keep it that way. They don't want to change it because they don't know what might happen as a result of changing it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, your kids will just be happier, but, you
Yeah,
know, yeah,
we can't risk that.
we
um,
can't risk that. How dare we?
uh-huh. Don't upset the norm. But again, it kind of comes back to control as well a little, I think.
Yeah,
And again, it's probably because they're scared, but
for sure.
going back to where you kind of go to college or you grow up and you realize that there's a whole world out there, until that point you've
Yeah,
almost been sheltered from that life and you're like, okay,
100%.
this is it. And then you do see the world and you're like, damn, there is a world out here and I don't have to do
Yeah,
exactly as my parents have said. And not
seriously.
everyone is doing that.
And luckily for me, my experience also was a little bit different because and I'm not sure if you knew this. I also play dol, and
Oh, nice.
how long do that? About 7, 8 years, I
Yeah,
professionally played dol at hundreds and hundreds of receptions and all types of different stuff.
that's very cool.
And so from kind of like a earlier age, I was already on a, you could say, on like a dangerous side of things. Like from an early age, I was just around a partying environment and all that different stuff. So it was interesting to me. And crazy thing is, I was so sheltered my whole life. I didn't even realize I was scared of girls my whole life. Like I was terrified. I didn't know I had my teeth were so messed up, as a kid, and I thought
Oh,
I was like chubby, and I was scared of girls. I was a wallflower. Honestly, I had no confidence. Then once I was forced to like go play dole and stuff, I would see people looking at me and checking me out, and I was like, maybe I am a little bit better looking than I thought.
I
You know,
love
and
that.
it's funny because like around then, that's when I would start to actually get, like talked to by girls. I wouldn't talk to them; they would just come talk to me. So it makes it easier for me. But
Uh-huh.
at that time is when I found a lot more confidence in myself, and I, was more social and all those different things. But the whole point I'm trying to make with this is that if I didn't do something a little bit, it is a traditional thing, but it's not the most traditional thing for you to go out and do all these gigs at a young age. So because I did that, I was introduced to kind of an untraditional way of living. I would see people partying every weekend, multiple times a weekend. I was around alcohol. I was staying out super late, and that's not stuff that most at least Desi kids get to do. They don't go get to stay out 3, 4 in the morning. They don't go get to be around partying environments and go to open bars.
They don't
Like
get to do
that's
that when they're grown up, if their
Oh
parents
yeah,
were
that
around.
too. Yeah, if they're lucky,
Yeah.
they might.
Uh-huh.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to advocate that doing all those things is what life is about, but I do believe that the more you try to keep someone away from something, the more they're gonna want to try it.
For sure.
So I would much rather, God willing, when I have kids, I would just want an open line of communication. And if my son one day I heard him talking about drinking or anything, I would much rather he have his first drink with me at home. And when he does want to drink, let's have a cool father son relationship where we can watch some sports, talk about your life, have a drink, but you don't need to feel the need to go sneak away and do it. And the
Yeah.
reason why we do that, because I've done it too, I snuck out a lot. And I lie all the time. The only reason that
Are
we
your
do that
parents
is
watching this?
no, I made sure
Yeah,
they're not here. But
yeah.
anyways, the whole reason we do that is because we're scared of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about, and this is one of the most serious things I can talk about, drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I don't know how serious it is, where you are, but here in California, they're super, super strict. And back in the day, it was a little different. Even our parents used to do it, right? It was no big deal. But they've cracked down on it so much, it's not worth it. And one of the biggest reasons why younger, kids will drink and drive is they think if they don't get that car home or if they don't
Mm,
come back home, they're gonna get in trouble. So we're so afraid of getting in trouble by, let's say mom or dad, that we end up either getting in an accident, we end up going to jail or paying thousands and thousands of dollars of fines, and it's not worth it. But why does that happen is because of the fear of your parents.
it's
And
true. And it's so backwards.
it's so backwards. Like I hear about my friends say, oh, my mom said just pick me up. Like, man, if I call my mom right now, she's gonna bring a jutti in one hand and
Mhm,
a chappal in the other,
mhm.
and that's what's gonna happen. you
Yeah,
know
for
you
sure.
know it's just, I think if we can change a lot of these norms in the Desi community, we can save a lot of lives. Not just drinking and driving, but also depression and suicide and just so many other things. I've been there. I have a scar, on my head. I've almost like drank and fallen and died because I was
Oh,
depressed. So is there's so many better ways to handle things in life. No matter how lonely you feel, there's always someone or something that can help you. But the first thing you have to do is reach out for help. You can't It's like when your girlfriend's mad at you for something she didn't tell you why she's mad. Like, I can't read your head. I can't read your mind.
No, Rajan.
Yeah, you can't. So you gotta. It's just communication, and that's with anything in life. That's in Desi households. That's in, your partner. That's with your work relationship. Everything. Communication.
Yeah.
I wish it had something written on my forehead so I could just tell people what I want without talking. But maybe one day.
Yeah. Or you can just put post-its up there.
I'm gonna create that and then patent it. Hey,
Okay.
Bob, I think we might be onto something. We can make some
Yeah.
good money together.
Let's do it. All right, I'm
Let's
on
do
it.
it.
Yeah. Done. You heard it here first, guys.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Gems,
sure.
gems.
I want to ask you this
Yeah.
because it's been in my head. So obviously you've gone down the unconventional path, and that's fine. You are comfortable doing what you're doing, and you've had those conversations, and you're like, you've come to peace with it, and you're doing what you're doing. I've seen your video.
It's ongoing.
Oh yeah, okay. I suppose it's never going to go away.
It's a process, I've learned to accept that it is a process for my mental health, because if I feel like it has to be resolved tomorrow, I'm gonna drive myself crazy, and I'm gonna use the wrong things to try to get my sanity back, and that's not good. But I have learned to accept it is a bit of a longer process. But yeah, you're saying, so you've seen some of the videos, and
Yeah. So I've
let's go
seen
into that.
Yeah, let's do this. So when we say you're a music artist, you're not what I would call a traditional Punjabi artist. You're not, right. So you are
I'm
going
not
down.
Gurdas Maan or
Right.
Sidhu Moosewala by any means.
Yeah, but not only that, but I have watched some of your videos, and I'm thinking, damn, what are his parents thinking? What do your parents think, or do you just not show them?
It's funny actually. I've heard stories that, like, my mom's coworker watches those videos. It's funny, but I think I've really let my parents know that this is anything I do with music, it's a serious craft of mine, and people support it, and that's why I do it. I'm not expecting to retire off of it. That's not my goal, but I have a talent, obviously, a God-given talent, and I believe it's my duty, as long as I'm alive, to share it with people and you know, um, make it something enjoyable. There was one video, it was actually when I first got back into my professional career late last year at the beginning of late 2018, beginning of 2019. It was probably the most like provocative video I've done. It had a bedroom scene in there and everything. And to be honest, even I was like, I have no idea what my mom is going to say about this when she sees it. And not only that, sometimes I think in the future when I'm married, what if my in-laws find this stuff? You
Mhm.
know? But I think a lot of it comes down to people knowing your intention and knowing what it is what kind of person your character shows a lot. Your intentions say a lot about your character. And any videos that I've had, and shout out to my significant other. She helps me a lot and supports a lot. She is always on set, so everything is super professional. Anything we do is very professional. I'm all about work. If I'm on set, get to work, get it done. That's it. I don't do anything more than that. But I think it is I think I sometimes I like to be experimental, and sometimes I like to just see how people are going to react. And in my opinion, there's no such thing as bad exposure, or actually, there's bad exposure. There's no such thing as bad publicity. So if I can put something out there and maybe it's gonna get people thinking and intrigued and talking about it, or if I can put something out and maybe it's going to start some controversy, that it's not always a bad thing. It just means that more and more people are going to come across your content. Now, but I am definitely, I would say, moving forward. I'm a lot more aware of what the type of content that I'm putting out there, because now that I'm more of a professional, having a more of a professional career, I need to be careful with the type of stuff I'm marketing out there. So I don't advocate the use of certain words, in my new songs. There's certain things that, and that's just to, respect everyone and their culture and what's happening right now in the world. As well, I am, a little bit more aware of if there's any extra people in my video. I have just certain boundaries. I'm not gonna do. I have clauses where I'm not going to engage in certain acts where it can come back to make me look bad. So just keeping those things in mind. But I think, honestly, doing videos like that, doing things that are out of the norm, I think it's important because I'm tired of listening to Punjabi songs and there's just dancers in the background, like just doing Bhangra the whole time. You see flashy lights and it's just one location, one outfit, and it's just so repetitive. I want people to see something where they see it and they remember it for something, whether they remember it for the song, whether they remember it for something they saw in a video. Maybe they heard something I said and, they got them thinking. But I like to just be memorable and a little bit different because the music is so saturated. There's so much content, and you have to definitely put something out there that's a little bit different and a little bit, I would say, it can if it I think your content should be able to spark a conversation like it just did.
It definitely did. I was like,
Yeah.
oi, what's happening here?
But
Does
I
this
mean,
mommy know?
are you referring to any particular project?
I think I was referring to the one you were referring to. Was it one? Oh crap, I've forgotten the name.
One
Sorry.
time?
One time.
One time. Yeah.
That was it.
That
Yeah,
song was actually just recorded in my bedroom, honestly. It was a very, very early song in my career. It just happened to have started getting traction. It got a lot of requests. And I actually ended up having one of my buddies do a feature on there, and we recorded a video. So it was a fun video. Don't get me wrong. It was very fun. I show it to everyone just to see their reaction. Like I'll film their reaction.
No, don't get me wrong. I watched pretty much all your videos that were out there and listened to all your songs. And by the way, actually, I do actually really like your music, and I thought the videos were cool. I guess my point was it was unexpected, but maybe it shouldn't be. It's kind of in a roundabout way what I'm kind of getting to, in that we have this expectation of what Indian people will produce, whether it's in English or Punjabi or whatever, and actually that's nothing like I would have expected. And I actually had to say to myself, well, hang on, why were you expecting something? Why have you had this that's so strange? Because I don't think it should be.
It's because your mind is conditioned from seeing and hearing all these things, right? And it's so funny because honestly, I've heard other artists say this, and I've heard other artists say, I'm never gonna have an Indian girl as a model, right? I've heard that. And then I've also heard where, I've had a team member, myself, maybe someone established contact, and they were ready to be part of a video. They really wanted to actually be part of the music video. But then maybe a short while later, they said, oh, I'm sorry, my dad didn't allow it. And I look at everything from two ways. From both sides. I understand where that father is coming from. He's obviously, that's his baby girl, that's his princess. He wants to, do good for her, watch out, protect her. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure he's also conditioning her to, say things like you shouldn't wear revealing clothing, or you shouldn't go out at night, or you shouldn't do this or that. And I actually know that because I know about that situation. But I don't think that's okay. It shouldn't be accepted. What's wrong with, and I have one of my cousins, her name is Tristan Taliwal. She was in Diljit's videos. She's pretty well known. And, that's a cousin of mine. We grew up together. But it's interesting to me, why is it that just because someone wants to, show their talent or their God-given beauty, or, maybe they want to do that. If that's something they have a desire to do and they want to do it, what's wrong with it? It's not like they're shooting an adult film.
Yeah.
I could understand if that's the case. That's a different conversation, right? I don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But if it's just, music videos and things like that, I don't understand. And when I was given that, that answer, oh, I'm sorry, my dad wouldn't like that, I almost felt like, can I sit down with him and talk to him face to face? Like, I'm not gonna do anything to your daughter, dude. I'm not even gonna touch her. She's gonna be like 10 feet away in the video. But it comes down to that stereotypical, that stigma, that it's a norm. It's not accepted, and I don't think that's fair at all. I really don't think that's fair.
No.
And I don't see any reason except for the fact that our culture, I'm not saying that this is an accurate representation of it now. It is in a lot of ways, but we are not living in the 1800s anymore, back wherever. We are in my grandfather, he was a huge hero of mine. He's not with us anymore, but his biggest thing was, um, with the times, you have to change. You have to change with the times. And he was born in 1920, so
Yeah, that's
a
impressive
century
coming
ago,
from that
you
generation.
know.
Yeah.
And he fought in World War II, everything. But when he emigrated to this country in the early 90s, his biggest advice to his kids, all my aunts and uncles, was, as the times change, you have to change. He never told his he never and this is coming from, and my family is very, very cultural. We speak Punjabi at home. We go to the Gurdwara. My parents do pot every single day.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to write actually in a lot of Punjabi newspapers. So he was very well known guy, but he never said, no, you can't go out. No, you can't do that. He always would encourage, as the times change, you have to adjust and assimilate. And I think about that all the time. You have to, because if you don't, you're either going to stand out where you don't want to, or you're going to cause fights in your family. And like, family is all we have. Why you should create a we should create healthy relationships with our mom and our dad and all that. They work so hard, for us, even though they don't communicate it the right way. They're really bad at that.
Yeah.
But the point being is, we should try to develop a healthy relationship with them. We don't, that's my biggest thing. But yeah, it's tough. I know for sure there's a lot of girls who have missed out on some opportunities out there due to that. And I don't think it's normal. But what's normal, and at least it's not as prominent here. It is in some places, but like in India, or even here actually in the film industry, or photographers, I hear a lot of stories where people are, taken advantage of or exploited, or, and I have zero tolerance for that either. I think all of this men believing that they're superior or have rights or entitlements, that needs to go away ASAP. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's that.
Uh-huh.
I'm a huge supporter. Go women.
Excellent. I'm glad to
If
hear
you,
it.
yeah, there's no reason why. You got to think, it's so reversed to me, and sometimes we read it and then we start posting it everywhere. In our own culture, in our own religion, we say everyone comes from a queen, right? So if you say that and you believe that and you want to treat people like queens, why do we put the queens down? Why do we not, like, to me, that has never made sense. But I'm a huge believer in that.
I am so glad to hear that, and I couldn't agree with you more. And it really, really makes me mad. And you're right; it's exactly the same. It's like they'll go to the mandir, they'll go to the gurdwara or whatever, and they'll like pray to like Mataji or whatever, and then they'll come home and then they'll like, they beat their wife or their kids or tell them they can't do this and that and the other. And it's like,
it doesn't make sense.
what planet are you on? you
Right.
can't go in one direction and go, oh, okay, the giver of life, and then just be like, I'm a man, I can do whatever the hell I want. Women are second class. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
no. So it's very nice to hear. And I think for the most part, our generation are kind of maybe it's because we're brought up here, are more of that mindset, although unfortunately not necessarily everybody. So it's very nice to hear, but yeah, I think again, unfortunately, I think there's a long way to go, because that is how people think, and in case it wasn't obvious, it makes me very mad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, trust me.
Right?
I know some very, very passionate people about that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have a younger sister as well, and she's now at the age where, I look at her and I'm like, oh, you're okay. You're a beautiful woman now. So, it's around that time, but it is interesting when I hear comments from, for example, I've been a little bit more open than I should have been, with my previous relationships. I'm just the type of guy where I believe maybe if I tell someone, they won't get mad at me, but that always backfires. So
Yeah,
don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, all the dissies, don't do that. Trust me.
You were
Talk
right
to
keeping
me.
it
There's
quiet.
better. Yeah, seriously. So I would always, just kind of like be a little bit more open about it. And my mom was always trying to like be a little bit more overly involved in my relationships. I think that's a big problem in our community as well. And then because they all of a sudden think dating is like you're in a marriage.
Yes.
And you're not. I'm like, they're like, so how is she? How? I'm like, give her some space. Yeah. And another thing that's very out of the norm for me is I have a house, but then I also, like, if I feel like it, or if wherever I feel better, I'll go to an apartment and my girlfriend is there, so we'll live together. And my parents are absolutely okay with that. But then I have heard in the past them say, I can't even imagine if your sister ever did that. Like, we would never let her do that. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I've literally wanted to, like, start a whole argument over that. And I have, and then it's so much of the world just puts down women for no reason. Women go through like some of the most BS ever. Men can't even tolerate most of the BS that women go through. And sometimes I feel like I'm a woman because I go through a lot of BS. I'm just kidding.
We'll let you in. You're a nice guy.
I heard yesterday I was getting a haircut, and shout out to my barber. She's like a goddess. She's one of very few female barbers, and she can compete with any male barber out there. I swear, she's the one that keeps me looking beautiful.
Yeah.
And
shout out to her.
Shout out to her. She told me a story the other day that her boyfriend and her went somewhere to go look at a spot, and that the tenant, he was a male, he was giving a lot of attention to the boyfriend, and I can understand, out of respect, you do that. But then at one point she said, hey, I'm the one who's going to do business here, you should talk to me a little bit more. And his response literally was, you're lucky that in my culture we even talk to the women. And I was like, so what culture is that, and where is he? I'll go beat his ass right now. I don't understand how toxic that mindset still exists out there. It's scary.
It is, and it is horrible, and it's just like and it comes back to how people were raised, and that it's just like,
exactly,
why would you pass on those kind of things to your children so they can pass it on to others and just be complete douchebags about it to people?
Yeah, and the problem is, I'm sure that his parents, whoever it might be, they pass it on unknowingly to their kids, and they never, either no one told them, hey, this is fucked up, or they never took the time to educate themselves and realize, oh my God, this is wrong, and I need to tell my kids the right way. So that generational racism, and it's happening a lot in this country, and the only way that it's going to change, and it's going to change in the world, is for every generation to take more of an initiative, to be more outspoken, to vote more in all of their provinces and their countries. Is going to require the younger generation that actually understands and is a little bit more awake. We're the ones that are going to have to make that difference, because it's so systematic and ingrained in generation that it's not going to go away in any other way, unless they just all die out.
Yeah. Which isn't going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No, but you're right. They do it unconsciously, because it's that you just see the mannerisms in the house. So that house must have obviously had that kind of hierarchy in it for that to have been passed on.
Yeah, I was shocked. That must have been someone really old school, because it's not, where I am, it's not very prominent at all. It's not very prominent at all, but it, obviously when the people who are part of that say it, they stick out like a sore thumb. And it's just, I don't know how someone even has the audacity to say something like that.
No. Yeah. As much as you can blame that generation, like, we've all got brains, we're all grown ups, we know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, common sense is just not too common.
No, it's clearly skipped a generation.
It definitely has. Definitely has.
I've just seen the time, and I'm having a lot of fun talking to you, but we've gone on for 45 minutes, and
no worries
leaving you. But this was a wonderful conversation, and
absolutely,
it's so refreshing and nice to hear your views, especially coming from Mel, which I know is a bit crazy to even say, because it shouldn't be. But again, in this day and age, it's just nice, and it's nice to see that you were raised right. So shout out to your parents and your family.
And my queen, my mom raised me right. That's what it all comes down to.
For sure. And it's so nice and refreshing to hear and see. So yes, thank you. And thank you for joining me. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Stay safe, and hopefully we can connect soon again.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Guys, just before I go, please go and check out Rajan's music videos, and you can see exactly what I was talking about earlier. But don't judge him like I did instantaneously.
Don't judge me.
No, but check it out. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Instagram, and you can find him at, I'm going to get this wrong.
Sahota. Sahota. So hot like the weather, last name Sahota.
Awesome. Right. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll see you next week. And thank you once again, Rajan. Bye, guys.